Okay. Hello, all. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It is October 26th of 2023. This is our city council meeting that was rescheduled from our normal date. So we are now doing it this evening, like I said, October 26th. I'll have the city clerk do the roll call.
Mayor Wusso,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Dame,
Here.
Councilor Schachter,
Here.
Councilor Kaup,
Here.
Councilor Weimer,
Here.
Councilor Zelinski, Councilor Godis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Any agenda changes or conflicts?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Where's my button? There it is. If I may, if the council would indulge me, I would like to add a new item, and we can list it as right before item 11 as 10A for direction and or action regarding Hershey v. City of Glenwood Springs.
Absolutely. Are there any objections from council on that?
No.
Okay, we will go ahead and proceed with that addition then. The next item, we are going to have council announcements. Does anybody have any council announcements? What's that? Okay, I'm going to close that. And we are going to move on to citizens appearing before council. As a reminder, these are items that are not on this evening's agenda. I do have a list. However, I'm going to give you a quick like a little rundown. You can come up to the podium when I call your name. You'll get 3 minutes to speak. I love it best when you finish before the 3-minute timer, so I don't have to interrupt you. I think our first speaker this evening is Barbara Philippone. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Philippone.
Philippone. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Okay.
Do I have to say it again?
So I need to hear your name and if you're in city limits.
Yes, my name's Barbara Philippone. I am in city limits. I have a C3 property on South Grand
Okay.
with multi-use apartments, commercial. I'm here just over an issue on these trash cans.
Okay.
I have a whole agenda, but I didn't realize I only have 3 minutes. My employees, because we have a dumpster, part of their employee benefits are they're able to bring their trash to work.
Okay.
It happens to be my daughter who works for the company, and I have a house downtown. She has 2 trash cans outside. My other neighbor, which she doesn't need because it all comes to the commercial building. I had a whole agenda for the seniors in this town and a few of the neighbors. One in particular has recycled for years. She's never had trash service. She also composts. And honestly, I drive by your recycle center almost daily and I couldn't find it. So your signage is really terrible.
Okay.
So I hear that you're not profitable. Also, no one wants to be your workers to sell the recycling. So you need to consider that. And waste management is a monopoly. And I'm very aware of what they're doing nationally.
Okay.
Because they're going to be more than what you think, because I work more at a government level.
Okay. I think you're bringing up some concern. My request would be that you connect with me via email and let's see if we can get some solutions or at least some clarity on some of these
Let's
things.
address the trash.
Okay.
People, my employee,
Yeah.
my daughter has 2 trash cans in front of her house. And it's an eyesore, and recycling is a temporary solution for what we can't biodegrade.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Well, so we're not going to be able to solve anything this evening up here.
No, I
This is-
didn't
Okay.
anticipate
Okay.
that. in
But just
3
reach out and connect with us and let's see if we
Okay.
can, at least understand kind of where you are with these things. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thanks for coming this
You
evening.
know, you can tell.
Okay. 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 Thank you, Barbara. Okay. Is there anyone else here this evening? This is for items not on the public or not on this evening's agenda. And anyone online? Okay, then I'm going to close the public comment section for citizens appearing before council. And we will move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Okay, hold on one second. Oh, can you turn on your light? Okay, go ahead.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
In a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed unanimously. Okay, moving on, we will move on to an update on the 27th Street underpass. I think we have someone from RAFTA here this evening. If you can just say your name. Thank you.
Good evening, council, Madam Mayor. Let me see if I can be a presenter here to show my presentation. Got all kinds of fun things to talk about today. Some might say it's spooky.
Oh, I saw that sign this morning. Yep, thank you.
All right, since we're technical difficulties, I'll tell you how that happened. 2 weeks ago, I was Ben Ludlow, RAFTA, if I didn't say already. Was sitting in a meeting and I said, hey, our traffic change is going to happen around Halloween. We should say something silly like spooky changes coming. And the traffic control guy actually did that. So I thought it was quite funny. Sure.
It is. Levity is a nice.
Okay, here we go. 27th Street underpass project. So we're moving along well on this project right now. And so I'm here to give you all an update. First things first is we're going to have our shift into phase 2. So there's going to be some major traffic impacts starting November 2nd. We have paving that will occur over the top of the existing east portion of the box where we're working right now. And after we get our paving complete, we'll move forward to an overnight closure. That overnight closure will be from 23rd Street down to County Road 154, Buffalo Valley. During that closure, we'll be removing striping from our current alignment, moving barrier wall, and putting new striping in. It's easier for us to entirely close down the intersection at nighttime to do this work, and the weather appears to be good next weekend. And I jokingly said, since we're doing it Saturday, we get an extra hour because it's daylight savings, the final daylight savings. During this time, the road will be closed to local traffic only. We'll have a hard stop basically at Alpine Tire on the Up Valley side and a hard stop kind of around Carpet One area on the Down Valley side. And we will be allowing buses to come through the job site during work and emergency services. We've provided or working on, if we haven't provided it yet, it will be soon, maps to emergency services and to my RAFTA operations folks. And hopefully by Sunday morning, everyone will wake up to a new alignment. And there you go. There's the spooky changes. So here's kind of the timeline on that. We'll be paving on the 2nd with no closures expected because it's all going to happen in our closed area right now. Then on Friday the 3rd, there'll be some crane operations setting a temporary signal pole on the southeast corner, and with some minor traffic holds during that time during our allowed closure. And then overnight on Saturday the 4th, starting around 9 p.m., we'll close Highway 82 and 27th Street, do our striping removal, and then new striping, and along with that, moving barrier wall, getting things set up and ready for the new alignment to occur on the 5th. We've done a massive outreach on this phase through social media, on our website. I don't know if you're signed up for the alerts, you probably got one today. I got one also myself. And I give updates to RAFTA staff weekly, and anyone else that I know going through the area that, here's what's happening, be aware. I don't think that we'll see that this will be a major impact as we saw the last time. Here's kind of an update where we are, what's going on down there in the hole. There's our nice new board form walls that you can see at the portal of the tunnel. And this picture, I believe, was taken yesterday afternoon. So you can see that we're actually able to drive over the top of the tunnel at this point. The bottom right hand corner kind of shows you rendering of what it should look like when we are complete. Couple more photos. This is looking down the ramp between the BRT station, Highway 82, the rendering on the upper right, and then you look at the picture on the left, that's kind of looking backwards up there of where we are right now. We're forming, actually poured that wall today on the left-hand side of that photo. Just a couple more photos to share with you, but some temporary shoring and what it looked like when we did our form work inside the tunnel. And again, rendering showing kind of the area where we're have the eastern portal. We flew a drone. It was kind of cool. If anyone saw my raft update, I had a whole bunch of photos in the raft board meeting with this to go over the site. I really enjoy the drone photos because it shows all of this work in this tiny little space that we're doing. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces to make that happen. And so, yeah, this particular drone photo gives you an idea of the alignment of the road as it is right now, and to think how it's all going to shift over the top of the box. And then we'll build the west half of the box in phase 2, and then the east half of the west half and south half of the 27th Street underpass for phase 2. Phase 2, again, starts here in the next November 4th, 5th area, and then will last until sometime in May of next year. We're going to work throughout the winter. We had a snowplow coordination meeting this week with CDOT, RAFTA, and city staff. Again, if you haven't connected with the project, 27th Street project.com. You can email us, you can follow us, Ride RAFTA, all of our socials if you have any further questions. That's all I have for now. Did
Okay,
I miss anything? Any questions?
I'm going to bring it back to council. It looks like Counselor Godus has one question.
I had a comment suggestion, and I think Aaron's had it before as well, but I know CDOT sometimes is not the most receptive to feedback, but they are a partner on this project. And the feedback I had was, especially during rush hour in the evening, it's a massive cluster at Buffalo Valley. And now that we're actually trying to encourage people to take Buffalo Valley as a route and saying this is the way to go, we got to have a stoplight, an arrow, a green arrow that lasts more than 3 cars. That is, I don't know what CDOT needs to do, but there's very little up valley traffic happening at that point. So whatever we can do to inform our partner that this would make things a lot easier for the traveling public would be great. And no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it was a couple updates ago, we talked about that. I don't know if something's changed, but they for a while had doubled the green arrow length time. So I'm gonna make up a number and say it was 10 seconds, so it changed to 20 seconds. I asked that from David Oldham from CDOT to see if we could extend that, and specifically because of valley traffic being so light at the time, and they were fine with doing that. I will see if there's the possibility to make that any further.
If we could double that again.
No, I commute the other way. I don't like waiting.
Yeah, but this isn't about you, man. It's about me.
Yeah, well, I'll ask that for sure. We were
Thank you.
actually contacting them today about our detour that'll happen just for the overnight and how that's going to affect that light. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Couch.
Ben, I had a question on where are most of the workers parking?
at my 505, our building at the corner.
Okay, is there any agreement with Walmart to park in that north lot?
Not that I know of.
Okay, just curious. We'll have more conversation about that.
Okay.
Just curious, there have been a lot more cars in that at the north end of that parking lot, and someone was asking me the other day, just for context, if it's from the new apartments there or if it's workers
it's
from the
not
project.
my crew.
So just curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that they park at the 505 building because I have a hard time finding a place to park there.
Okay.
Come on, can I have my own spot?
All right, thanks.
Any other questions from council? Okay, then I guess a huge thank you as always. Thanks for keeping us up to date. And we look forward to your continued success and your spooky updates.
I appreciate your support as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night. Moving on, we're going to add on item number 9, 2024 budget public hearing. Looks like our interim city manager, Steve Boyd, is jumping to the podium.
Yep. Good evening, council. I think we're about done with the budget season this year. You guys will vote to adopt a budget a week from tonight. This is an opportunity tonight to hear from the public and anything that anybody has to say. I will send out the budget that you'll actually be voting on tomorrow. The only two changes that are in it, one is that you guys voted to put another $130,000 in the budget to the Roaring Fork School District last week, or 3 weeks ago now, I guess. That's in the budget. And then the other thing is that Ryan and I got an updated number from RAFTA on some of their allocated costs, and that's going to increase the bus tax budget by about $100,000. Other than that, I think you guys have seen everything that you're going to see next week, other than kind of the write-up and description. So,
Okay, great. So I think we'll go ahead and open it up. Unless I have council questions, I'm going to open it up to the public for any questions regarding the budget. Is anyone here with questions about the 2024 budget? Anyone online with questions about the budget? Oh,
You're gonna be able to see.
oh, hold on one second. I'm so sorry, but I do need to have you come back up. And once again, no? Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's do this. Let's just try to guess maybe what she was going to ask and see if maybe you could answer that.
what was she going to ask?
I think, is the budget going to be posted?
It is. It
Okay.
is. Just go to our website, and it's right there, kind of on the front page. You're also welcome to email me if you would like.
Mhm.
I'm easy to find. Hmm?
City of Glenwood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, City of Glenwood West, it's COGS, City of Glenwood Springs.us, and it's right there. Let me know if you have any trouble.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, anyone else? Okay, and no one online, then we will just, as always, say thank you so much for all your hard work on this, and we look forward to seeing the final next week.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Council.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10. This is ordinance 2023-09 downtown design overlay. This is a second reading of an ordinance. We historically would have put it on a consent agenda, but it does sound like there might be some discussions this evening. So Hannah Klausman.
Good evening, council and mayor. Let me just pull this up. So first off, I would like to let everyone know, if you didn't already, Danielle Campbell, our economic development specialist, has moved on from the city. So she has lovingly put together a presentation for me tonight. So it is from her with love. But I'm going to cruise through it because I also have love for you. And I do believe that you have intentions of discussing amongst yourself a little bit longer than my presentation. So here we go. And share. Okay, so this is the second reading for the downtown design overlay. We've been working on this for some time, so we just have a quick slide of where we have been for anyone in the room that is not familiar with this. We've been working on this topic for approximately 3 years, and you guys have had it come before you a couple times with some work sessions, and we've made some tweaks. And from your last session, we made the changes as requested for second reading, and I'll highlight those as well. I think we know the why. We're looking for vibrant pedestrian oriented businesses downtown. And we've also made changes to kind of hone in on what exactly that looks like. Obviously, there's lots of perspectives, but this is one offering for you guys to review. I'm just going to bring this up very quickly. These are the lists of approved uses. These are the ones that you have reviewed and looked at that you want to encourage more of in the downtown area. So I just wanted to put that up for everyone to see. One of the things that we did, the most recent change, we added a title.
Hang on, there's something.
I think it may be Ryan's phone.
I'm
us
making
just a
babies cry. I hear a baby crying.
He gets the award for ringtone at night.
Okay. Okay,
Just trying to quietly do that.
Okay.
Anyway.
thanks. Okay, great. Hannah, sorry for that. Thank you for your
No
patience.
problem. I took a drink of water.
No, there's nothing ever wrong with giggling babies. Like giggling babies, it's a happy sound, right?
That was hilarious.
Yeah. Could be
So we
every
did
time.
add the category commercial outdoor recreation use. That was an oversight from before, and we felt that was worth adding.
Mhm.
I can certainly go into what that means. So those are the list of approved uses that are on for your overlay boundary. The few changes that we made are highlighted here in yellow from your first reading. So we had a change for lodging with the linear frontage. So all the other approved uses, that is 75%. And for lodging, there is allowance to have that a little less with 50%. We reduced the building frontage 75 feet. That was previously 100. So lowered that down, and that's for the architectural features of looking like a series of entrances. Also a big highlight in the bottom, new businesses that are not approved uses can only be located in an existing tenant space on the ground floor that was previously an unapproved use. And Danielle has lovely illustrations that I will get to. So if we have any questions on that, I know you have seen this many times, but I want to make sure that everyone else in the room knows kind of what we're talking about. I did also fail to mention at the beginning, at council's request, we sent out postcard mailers to every property owner within the boundary that you guys reviewed on first reading. So we might have some new faces in the room as they might want to comment on that, just an aside. We can go over these if you guys want to look at different instances of when it applies and what happens. You can see there, this is okay, that is not okay, kind of do this, don't do that type of scenario. This is the boundary map from your last meeting. So we can reference back to that if we want to review anything else. But this is the area that the mailers went out to. And our list of exemptions. So this is when it would not apply to parks and open space, non-conforming structures that have been damaged, remodels that have to do with ADA compliance, and National Historic Registry landmark buildings. Ability. So we did want to throw in a slide. A lot has been talked about on the building incentive side. So this is just kind of a summary of some of the incentives that we have now. For your reference, we do Downtown Development Authority, and their director, Jillian, is here tonight if you have any questions for her. Facade improvement grant, as well as design assistant grant, they have that and administer it. On the city side, we have a revolving loan fund that we administer, also available to businesses. So those are some of the incentive offerings that we have now, and happy to talk or review other ideas if you have them. So this is in your packet of the exact language that's going before you. So I'm going to kind of cruise through this, but if we have questions, we can come back to them because you guys have seen this quite a bit. And staff recommendations and findings. In your staff report, also the criteria for code amendment is in there as well, and as well as the ordinance. That is actually the end. So I'm going to stop sharing and bring it back to you guys for discussion. The last thing I will say is we did have some public comments submitted in written format, and that has been included in your packet from several, the chamber is in there, and some last minute ones that we were able to get in front of you. So with that, thank you very much.
Perfect.
And I will take any questions.
Counselor Schachter.
No question at this point. I'm ready to make a motion.
Oh, hold on one second then. So we're going to go ahead. Question? Okay, Counselor Dunn.
Just real quick, and that was a comment that was sent to us. We're allowing lodging to do a 50% usage, but then the comment was lodging is not even on the uses.
Right, so that's I don't have a picture for that. So the 75%, that's what we want to see taken up, linear street frontage as an approved use. And then 25% can actually be a non-approved use. So the lodging, you are absolutely correct, is not on the approved list. So if we hadn't made that change, they would be limited to that 25% of the street front.
No.
And so a change that you guys made was widening that for lodging uses. So lodging uses, just as a reminder, includes hotels, bed and breakfast, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, those sorts of things. So you moved how much space they could take up.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, I'm going to open it for public comment at this point.
Point of order for a second, Mayor.
Yeah.
Add multiple public comment. I'm wondering, can we do public comment at this point without a
Okay,
vote?
hold on one second. Yeah, hold on one second. Go ahead.
after multiple iterations and a motion and a first reading, which has included public comments,
Mhm.
can we open it up to public comment without a vote of council?
Well, we can, and I think big picture, we do have a new audience here. Some new people simply because of the expanded area. I don't know how many, if you guys could raise your hand, if you're here specifically to talk about the overlay so we've got 4 here and then any online, we've got 1 online. Okay, so we have 5 public comments. I'm receptive to hearing what council would like to do. I will just be transparent and say that this for some is a new concept and we haven't had an opportunity to hear from them. But I'll let council kind of direct that. Counselor Zelinski.
I agree with you. I feel like, because we did send out those postcards, it would not be in good faith to not acknowledge that.
Mhm.
So I'm with you. I think that we should definitely let the public comment happen.
Okay. Counselor Godus.
Hannah, did the postcards go out between first and second reading?
Yes, they did.
And I guess, I don't know who the attendee online is, but I kind of feel like, to Sumner's point, we've had 2 years of discussing this issue with open houses,
Mhm.
postcards, opportunities for people to, probably half a dozen times we've talked about it, probably half a dozen work sessions that people could attend. So I guess I'm okay with not taking public comment, but I'm okay with whatever the majority of council would
Okay.
like to do.
So I can approach this 2 ways. I can have a motion to allow public comment and see where everyone's at, or I can continue to take and we can kind of count numbers this way. Okay. Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to allow?
Motion to allow public
Okay,
comment for the
hold
second-
on 1 second. There you go.
I will make a motion to allow public comment for the second reading of this ordinance.
Seconded.
Okay, and we'll call the question on this just to keep it really by the book.
Yes, Counselor Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Wusso. Yes, Counselor Godus. No, Mayor Pro Tem Dane. Yes, Counselor Weimer. Yes, Counselor Kaup. No, Counselor Schachter. It passes 5-2.
Perfect. Okay, so with that in mind, we will go ahead and start public comment. You heard it before. You guys, those who are here specifically for this item, please come up to the podium. Give us your name, and if you're in city limits, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And once again, I hate interrupting people. So if you can just self-check, that is in alignment with what I would prefer. So who would like to start? Come on up.
My name is Ryan Scheit. I live at 415 Meadow Court, Basalt, Colorado, but I'm here on behalf of 818 Colorado LLC. I want to express my concern about the planned overlay district. I don't believe that a single person here disagrees with the purpose of the overlay district, to promote downtown vibrancy and pedestrian engagement with an emphasis on walkability. Indeed, I think that this is what gives Glenwood Springs its charming character that we all love. However, I believe in compromise and that this can be accomplished without such a broad, burdensome overlay district. The Colorado Supreme Court has said that property owners in areas with existing zoning regulations have a right to rely on them when there has been no material change in the character of the neighborhood, and that amendments to zoning ordinances should be made with caution, only when changing conditions clearly require amendment. Now, I believe that the character of downtown Glenwood has materially changed, but within the original planned overlay. The area west of Grand Avenue consists of the USPS, the Garfield County Courthouse, the County Administration Building, and the City Hall. The character of this neighborhood with these government buildings has not and will not change. The court has further stated that if a property owner has invested money to put his property to a particular use, which is lawful, and if subsequently outlawed by a zoning ordinance, he loses not only his potential use, but also the value of his investment. Also, an ordinance should not be an unreasonable demand upon an individual. Many property owners in reliance on the commercial neighborhood west of Grand Avenue have invested a significant amount of money in their property for certain uses. Applying the overlay to this area would be an undue burden to these owners, potentially losing the value of their investment. Finally, I worry if council has followed proper procedure in enacting this overlay. Per Municipal Code 706040C, all code amendments must have published notices prior to a hearing, appearing twice in a newspaper of general circulation in the city, with the first notice no less than 10 days prior to the hearing. From my knowledge, notices for the September hearing were published on the 13th, 8 days before the hearing, and the 20th, 1 day before the hearing, and not to mention previous ones held earlier in the year. As the court has said, when passing an ordinance, the city is bound by its own procedures contained in its municipal code. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Would the next person like to step forward who wants to speak? Thank you.
Thank you. Adolfo Gora in the Glenwood Springs city limit. This one I've had the heartburn a long time because when I purchased a property, I have a little property here in on Pitkin Avenue. And when I bought it 16 years ago, it was always my vision it's a small office building, about 20 feet wide, and I wanted to go up the second story. That was kind of the long-term retirement plan for me. But with this, and I realized, I understand the good intentions that are proposed here. I really get it. It's just when these things are implemented blankly across things, I think there's places that the shoe doesn't really fit, and it sets us up for financial failure. For example, if I wanted to do 75% frontage in any type of use other than office, it only leaves me 5 feet to do something else with it. The little building's only 20 feet wide. So basically, I'm committing the majority of the lower level to a use that I never really wanted to do. I never really wanted to have any business with. So that changes the equation for me. And so after 16 years of paying property taxes and mortgage and all that, a better vision comes along different than what I had, tells me I can't do it. I don't know how we square that. I always understood that the zoning and planning changes, when made after the fact, made after people have invested in property, is for the protection of property values. In this case, for me at least, and I don't know how many others, it might be to the detriment. So I leave that to you. You guys have done this for many years, but I see it negatively affecting me, and I just wanted to relay that.
Thank you. Thank you for coming forward when speaking to us. Okay, come on up.
My name is Sarah Dunn. I live at 125 High Point Drive. My partners, Chris Geiger, Scott Grosskopf, and I own the building at 818 Colorado Avenue. And we are shareholders within the law firm of Balcom and Green. Unfortunately, Chris and Scott were unable to be here tonight. We have attended every council meeting and work session where this ordinance has been discussed. We've worked directly with staff, and I'd like to thank staff. They have been very communicative and tried to work with us in order to address our concerns. And we invited each of you to walk through our building and discuss our concerns, and I appreciate those of you that did. Unfortunately, our concerns have not been addressed through this process, and I ask that you not adopt this ordinance. Colorado's 800 block currently and historically has been a professional district, dependent upon the proximity to local government. Our property has been used for professional offices since 1972 by lawyers, surveyors, engineers, and architects. The character of this neighborhood has not changed and will not change so long as the county offices, city ordinances, and courthouse remain in their current location. We have invested in this property in reliance upon being able to occupy our offices and lease spaces to other professionals. You describe this ordinance as an aggressive measure that will fundamentally change the character of the overlay zone. It will eliminate dozens of permitted uses and economically injure property owners. This ordinance is specifically targeted at eliminating professionals from the overlay zone. This type of action is not justified for the 800 block of Colorado Avenue, because there's not been a change in the character of that neighborhood justifying the loss of potential uses. If council does adopt this ordinance, we would request that it be more in line with the original overlay, the same overlay that the Downtown Development Authority and the Chamber have endorsed. Finally, I'm very disappointed at the treatment that the professionals have received during this process. Our firm has served this community for 75 years, and yet we have been disrespected in the work sessions and made to feel unwelcome in the downtown. One council member even stated that he would rather walk past a Euro shop than a law office in a parking lot, even as council acknowledges that we constitute a large sector of the dollars spent downtown supporting the very businesses that you seek to attract. Further, council members have carried on sidebars when these professionals and property owners have been offering their 3-minute comments, clearly indicating to these citizens that their concerns are not being heard. At a minimum, every citizen deserves 3 minutes of your respect, even if we disagree on the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience here for public comment? Then I will go to online and see if there was one person with a hand up. Is that person still wanting to speak? Okay, great. I can't see. Oh, Mike, thank you. Mike Mercatorius. If you can, we're going to start the timer. If you can unmute yourself and give you 3 minutes.
Can I share my screen?
I don't know that you can. No, I don't think you can, Mike, not online.
Oh, bummer. I got visual aids.
Darn it. Talk us through them.
So guys, I'm going to approach this from a different standpoint. 3/4 of our downtown is owned by people that don't live in Glenwood Springs, right? The reality is that if you look at our downtown layouts, I'm specifically talking about Grand Avenue, is you have these long, skinny shotgun buildings with different places on either side. So if we're saying we're going to take 75% or 75 lineal feet of a building in downtown, like the guy talking about the office space, it's going to leave 5 feet on the other side. Now, so because these are all owned by out-of-town investors or investors who are looking to get a return on their investment, you're now going to, what's going to happen is that 5-foot shotgun space, because you need to have egress in the front, egress in the back, is not going to be worth anything. There's not going to be someone who's going to take it. So what the landlord is going to be forced to do is actually put all of his income generating area on that 75 feet. So what that's going to do is actually push up the rents in that 75 feet, which is going to do the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. I really like the idea of protecting the downtown, making sure it's vibrant, this and that. In my opinion, the way is to get the downtown into local ownership when these buildings change hands. I was trying to square away of, I don't know, looking at the Daily Bread or, Sunday or something and trying to figure out how to make a 75-25 layout of that. Those floor plans that you showed are great if you don't have any buildings around you. Otherwise, you can't enter and exit any of those places. On the other side of it that I wanted to say is that Aspen did this. And what it did was push, and now Aspen has all national tenants. So what the landlords are going to do is going to go, well, so what if so local can't afford that rent? I'm going to bring in a national tenant. And no offense, I mean, I'd kind of rather have Hookers downtown, Hookers the store, than Patagonia. Nothing against Patagonia. But once it's gone, it's gone. The other reality is if we're trying to talk about sales tax on this and saving the sales tax, I sell out at the Glenwood Meadows, and Glenwood Meadows produces 22% of all the sales tax revenue for the town. This little part that we're talking about, and this is where my visual aid would come in, from 7th to 11th Street produces less than a quarter of what's produced at the Glenwood Meadows and about 9% of all the sales tax revenue for all of Glenwood Springs. So forcing local tenants out, raising rents, and really not doing anything to protect a huge sales tax generating place.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate your comments.
Yep.
Thanks for jumping on.
Yep.
Any other online speakers this evening? Anybody else want to add? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment section. I'm going to bring it back to council for a motion and subsequent discussion. Counselor Schachter.
May I ask one question, illegal?
Yeah, of course.
If at this point in time, there's an amendment to the first reading, does that prolong the public process and go on another set of weeks?
Yeah, no, typically, so underneath the charter, the way an ordinance is adopted, it's published in full after first reading. You do have an opportunity to make changes to it on second reading. If those changes are beyond ministerial, correcting clerical errors, that kind of thing, we publish it in full on second reading as well, which if there were major changes to this, we would. So that's that would be the process on this if you did a major change. Obviously, whether once it's published on second reading, there's a particular period where you have to, submit your intent to do a referendum on it or something like that underneath the charter that would run as well. So if you want to make changes, that's fine. It doesn't prolong the process. It just means that we would publish the full ordinance again rather than just by title, which is permitted on second reading.
And what constitutes a major or minor change? Is that very subjective, or is that?
Anything that is substantive, like in this instance, if you changed boundaries, for example, or if you changed in some major way, any of the, and you guys kind of have a feel for substantive, right? If you change uses again, if you change lineal frontage, that kind of thing, it's not a horrible burden for us to publish the whole thing. I mean, at one time, that was the reason they did this, was a lot harder to get your whole ordinance back over to the paper to get published. It's something that we can do. So I would not have that tie you up too much or worry about it.
Okay.
Any additional questions or motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion regarding that let me get the right on item or ordinance 2023-09 regarding the downtown overlay district, that we approve it as proposed in the first reading. And at that point, that's all. I'll make my motion and we can have discussion.
And is there a second? Counselor Dunn.
I second that.
Okay, I'm going to open it for some discussion or call the question. I see Counselor Godus's light is lit up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you hadn't had a chance to read it, I think some of the late breaking comments that were included in our packet from the chamber and from Mr. Grosscup were helpful. I guess I would say to any group that wants to make comments, the earlier we can get that information, the better. I'm sorry if you're made to feel that we were not respectful or that we weren't listening. I just want to say that. So I apologize if I was one of those people or if I was perceived as one of those people. To the motion, if Sumner, if you'd be amenable, I think one of those comments from Mr. Grosscup about, why are we treating lodging and how is this different? So, and I've kind of struggled with that as well since it passed on first reading. So if you'd be open for a friendly amendment to just strike the exemption under C2(1) exemptions, lodging is allowed to up to 50% of the building's lineal street frontage. I would suggest that it's not major to just have every business treated equally and just strike that exemption so that lodging is at the same 75-25 percentages that every other business is.
Or again, is that?
Hold on, you need a mic. Hold on. Well,
That's
everyone's
something that
got-
would just publish it all in full again, but it does not, there again, it does not prolong the public process. That's up to you guys what the final version is. We're just gonna publish the whole thing again.
I am going to do a little housekeeping and turn off some mics. Counselor Zelinski.
Wait, do you
Oh.
accept that amendment?
Oh, hold
Can
on.
we have some discussion before I deal with that?
Okay, so there's a request and we'll just kind of plant it for a moment. Counselor Zelinski.
So yeah, I turned on my mic because I too wanted to apologize, that was the message that you received. That was certainly not my personal intent. And I feel like respect is so paramount. And so I apologize if we at any time appeared disrespectful to you, your time, your energy, or your point you were trying to make. Personally, I heard a lot of those really good points, and I did believe that we addressed them to both Mr. Gora's concern and your concern. The way that I understand it is that your office can remain exactly as it is in perpetuity. It's only, and the reason that this is so valuable for me is as a downtown building owner and former business owner, I watched how some of the changes, primarily I'm going to talk about A&B Bank taking out that block. I look at this as an opportunity to have some teeth in not letting that happen again. If your office building always remains what it is, it will always remain that. But if you sell it and somebody wants to take out, and change the character of something, that's where I felt like we needed to be able to have some sort of action to represent what I heard from the community that they want. And also what I truly believe is in the city's best interest. But I do think that, that legacy, these legacy businesses are protected with the way that this has been written. Is that correct?
We've certainly made edits in that vein, yes.
So if that feels not substantial enough, I would welcome more input, but that was my recognition of what was being asked of us, and I felt like we addressed it. And so, if I would welcome more input, if that feels, like I said, like inadequate. But I did want to make sure that you understand, like you can keep that as an office. We're not asking you to change what it is. So if it's always what it is, it's always will be. It's just if somebody were to change it, it can't go backwards. So I just wanted to kind of like stress that. That's all.
Counselor Weimer.
Okay. I think I'm getting a head cold, so I apologize if I'm a little phlegmy. I feel phlegmy, which isn't great. Yeah.
Doing it? Okay.
So, so coming out of the first reading, I set out to organize my thoughts, sought counsel from some city leaders, some fellow council people, as I was organizing my thoughts, and respectfully, I'm asking council to reconsider some of our design decisions in that first reading. Not to kill it, not to do away with our intent or our vision or our goal, because I believe, public believes, the people I've spoken with believe that our intent is true, that it's the right goal, it's the right vision. I adamantly believe that we're going about some of our design decisions in the wrong way. And so if you'll indulge me here for just a second, I'm not going to read this paper that I wrote word for word, but I do want to highlight a couple of points that I think are more salient. I've developed 4 sort of headlines, I think, that I'm asking for us to think about and consider and reconsider some of the more some of the decisions that we're making. The first point is for us to really think about creating more focus and injecting more energy. And what I mean by that is bringing in the footprint of the overlay. That's what I mean by focus, right? So by bringing that in to what we would consider to be sort of the historic and traditional downtown footprint, and think about that as the overlay within which we really want to manage the evolution. That allows us to then be much more concerted in how we inject energy into this system. So there's a difference between casting a wide net and having that energy and that focus diluted versus being much more focused and targeted. And I think this does a couple of things for us. It allows Hannah, her team, it allows council, it allows others within the organization, the DDA, the chamber, et cetera, to work much more intensively with a smaller group of owners. Undoubtedly, those owners themselves want to be successful. They want to evolve in the right way. And I think with a more focused set of relationships, we can be much more effective. Second, this is going to allow us to concentrate the downtown's evolution to the downtown core. And what that does is it provides a much sounder testing ground for what it is that we're trying to do, right? This is ultimately us trying to weigh in on how properties turn over and in what they become. And ultimately, this is an experiment, right? In what it is we're trying to do. And in any experiment, you want to create the most opportune test bed that you can. You want to create an atmosphere, an environment, a geography in which that experiment has the most, the highest chance of succeeding, right? Or not. And so focusing on that traditional downtown core, I think provides us that very rich and opportunistic test bed. And then finally, this will better benefit the stakeholders that are involved. And so I'm talking about tenants, owners, the operators, that causing these storefronts to evolve in this very specific way. We want them to succeed. If we are asking these storefronts to evolve in any certain way, we want to see that evolution bear fruit. And I think there's a much greater, again, much higher chance of that succeeding in the downtown core. And I kind of have considered a bit of a sort of a contra example, right? So let's say we just have an expanded geographic footprint for this overlay. And the very first storefront, to evolve, let's, hypothetically, is a storefront that's on the very outskirt of this expanded overlay. And that person wants to do all the right things. And we want to help that person do all the right things, but they're kind of a block and a half, let's say, and around the corner, theoretically, from the rest of sort of the downtown core. And that person's trying to do all the right things. They may not get that footfall, right, that they would get if they were in the downtown core. They may not get that natural sort of adjacent, let's go window shopping sort of visitation effect, right? And so there's not as strong of a chance of that new storefront, again, everyone trying to do the right thing, succeeding. And if they don't succeed, what happens? It becomes a vacancy, right? Because yes, we're allowed to go back through special use, but special use is never, a guarantee of anything. And so I think, the sort of the Occam's razor solution there, the easiest, right? The most straightforward is you're just going to end up with a shuttered storefront. Number two, and I'm sorry, this is a bit of a tirade, but Once a year, I get to tirade. Number two, consider a holistic downtown environment. A thriving downtown comprises more than just an interesting, exciting set of stores and restaurants. A thriving downtown also needs regular patrons. And the reality is tourists and regional locals aren't often enough to be that critical mass of patrons. And this speaks to, again, shrinking the downtown or the overlay and appreciating what truly a diverse downtown delivers for us. And I'm speaking about the large number of professionals that work in downtown and immediately adjacent to it. They get their coffee, they get their lunch, they shop, they have happy hours. All of those businesses downtown benefit from the proximity and the adjacency of that critical mass of workforce. And that workforce and those employers offer the proximity to downtown as an amenity, right? Nobody, Glenwood's a little bit of a different sort of beast, but if you're in Denver, I don't want to go out to the Auraria, blah, 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 and work when I could work downtown. If all else being equal and I'm given the option, because I want to be able to go to lunch. I want to be able to, sit out and have a beer with coworkers in an interesting place after work. And so that relationship is very much a win-win, and it's very, very symbiotic. The overlay as it's presented today, I think for some of these historic traditional uses downtown, as they succeed, God bless them, and they need to expand, we're telling them they can't unless you want to move upstairs. And that's incredibly expensive. And if you put yourself, it's expensive for losing, for losing what little bit, on the first floor there. And so if you think about what would you do, right? If you're in that situation, I would probably go somewhere where I'm allowed to stay on the first floor and just maybe move into some, ready-made footprint, or go build, purpose-built somewhere in the county or down valley. And now we've lost that very important piece of the puzzle downtown. Number three, and there's only four, so I'm halfway done. Offer incentives, not just restrictions, right? And I appreciate, Hannah, you putting up tonight. I think it was the first time, at least I think about seeing those things as part of this conversation. The incentives that we currently have through the DDA, but what we're trying to do downtown is a program. It is a 360 approach to shaping the way that the downtown evolves. It's not just slapping new zoning down over a certain geography and calling it good. Not that anybody, I don't think, is really quite thinking that way, but I don't know that we're thinking collectively far enough as it being a program, right? And when I say program, it's because it's not just sticks. Thou shalt no longer do X, Y, and Z, and you must be 75 and all of the other sort of little nuanced numbers that are in there. But what are the incentives and benefits that we can think about, pulling together to help these storefronts evolve in the ways that we want them to, right? And so, just in the few meetings that I've had between then and first reading and now, we have, we've got an incredible tourism chamber that is willing to start participating in some way toward helping these storefronts evolve. We have a very robust and thoughtful downtown development authority who is willing to help in new ways, not just a matching or not just this or things that we do, but if we can get these shops to evolve and become part of this super exciting, vital downtown core, there are things out there that we can offer up as a package to speed that transition, to make it cheaper, to make it more, enjoyable for our tourists who now know that, this shop is not the thing anymore. It's now this, right? And so there's ways for us to really think about this as a holistic system of a program. We can waive system improvement fees. There's all, we can expedite the process. You can jump to the front of the law. There are levers that Hannah and her team has available. I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth. I'm not committing for anyone. I'm just saying that there are options out there that we've not really thought through to really think about what is that totality, what is that package that we can create to really incentivize the transition that we're all talking about. And then number 4, take a test and learn approach. Before I moved back to, moved back to Colorado, but moved to Glenwood, I've spent, I think it's 18 years now, as a top tier management and strategy consultant, right? For global Fortune 500s and small startups and everything in between. And one of the common sort of axioms through all of that is that it is always better to start small, test, learn, adjust within a very sort of controlled environment, learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can, get it right, and then expand. Whether it's, whether it's, we're going to get one country right, and then, we're going to, expand internationally, or in this case, we want to get a downtown overlay right. Let's start in our core traditional downtown, learn, work with store owners to understand, are we enticing? What are some of the, the potential unintended consequences that we might be able to tweak? Is it working? Is it not working? Get it right, and then decide at some point to expand. If we, if we were to, kind of, take a Debbie Downer approach to this, if we were to fail, right? If this downtown overlay were to have nothing but really unintended consequences, well, then we're also failing within a controlled environment, right? It's a much more sort of, smaller risk, smaller footprint. If we start with an expanded boundary, such as the one that we, had in our first reading, and we learn in that environment, perhaps that things aren't working quite as we had wanted or as it has hoped, and then we decide to contract, that is the total opposite of best practice, frankly. And if we approve the boundary as it's written tonight, in 10 days, that becomes the law of the land. And those buildings are now limited as to what they can become in the future. So you are immediately and undeniably not messing with, but devaluing some of those properties because we are limiting what they can become in the future. So that has to be, absolutely considered, that we are changing the value of some of these properties by doing this. If we were then in 3 years, we come back, the next council, whomever happens to be up here, and we decide, you know what, it's not working. Let's either do away with it entirely, or let's contract down to a smaller size. Well, now we've artificially manipulated that building's property value twice, right? We've put a sort of this artificial cap on it because we've limited what it can become, and perhaps it's changed hands because I can't do what I want to do with it anymore. I'm going to sell it. I have no other choice. And then in 3 years we say, oh, you know what? you can go back, you know, we're withdrawing the boundaries or we're reducing them. That's not what we want to do. That could have very consequential unintended realities to it. And I think it doubles down as to the importance of starting small and focused and testing and learning and expanding if it works. I don't have an overlay for you guys tonight. I'm not going to put something up and say, I think this is the answer. What I'm suggesting and what I'm asking council to do is to either is to vote against the design that that council approved in the first reading, and either take this back to a very focused and purposeful work session, right? I don't care if this expands the public, more public the better, right? We shouldn't even be curious about that sort of thing, because this, my gosh, right? We have to have the public involved in this. So either this goes back to a work session and we knock this stuff out and without a question, right? We understand exactly what it is that we're doing. Or we decide to take it by the horns tonight and figure this stuff up here on the dais. But I want to wrap this up by saying, I don't feel like we have listened to any of our recommending bodies. You know, I sit in on DDA, and there was a conversation about writing another letter to council, and someone said, well, they've not read or they've not listened to the first two letters we wrote. So why write a third one? And that's horrible, right? Why do we even have a DDA? Why do we ask them for recommendations if we're so flippant about that? The public, right, has weighed in. I don't know that we've you know, done as much there as we could. The chamber. So it's, we don't know better, right? I think the best thing we can do is listen, understand, synthesize, and develop a very sort of concerted, thoughtful, careful approach to this. Knock it out of the freaking park. And in a couple of years, we're having a discussion about how amazing it is. How do we do more of it? So thank you again for the indulgence. That was horribly long, but I ask that we vote no against it as it was written or as it was approved in the first reading, and then we decide whether to take this back to a work session. One more work session, we knock it out, or we figure it out up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schechter.
Thank you. And I appreciate what Mitchell said, and get some Kleenex. I'm going to take by my motion the contrary view, because I believe that the goals that were stated at the podium by the public, by Councilor Weimer, have been incorporated into what we're doing. However, there is one significant piece that is missing. First of all, I have to say, this has been a long process. It's been as long as almost any public process I have seen. And I'm not concerned. And we have taken input from everybody who's spoken to us and tweaked this so the existing businesses can exist, so that unapproved uses can be used. And there are a lot of unknowns, but to me, one of the purpose of this and the biggest unknown isn't what we know now. Our historic downtown is and does need to be protected, and that does include Colorado. That does include 6th Street. That does include Cooper. Those businesses may never change. Fine. However, if we don't act now, out of respect to Councilor Weimer, we wait 3 years from now, and in spite of what's said by the owners, there's a major redevelopment that is totally contrary to the vision we have for downtown. It's too late. So I would say we run a much bigger risk of doing too little now than too much. We have done everything. Now, no ordinance is ever going to be perfect. We're dealing with quite a few unknowns. We've incorporated considerable input, and it may have to be tweaked. Many of them do. But I think the risk to downtown Glenwood outweighs any risk of passing this right now. And I think, I've said this to you guys, I think about other things that have happened near and far. The fear of change. Look what happened. There was a huge, look at our bridge. Now, CDOT decided they're going to change our bridge. We had massive resistance. Oh, we want the old bridge. Oh, we don't want to change downtown. No, we don't want a meeting center. There are too many reasons not to have a gathering zone under the bridge. If we'd have gone with the voices resisting change, we'd be in a desperate position right now downtown. Almost everybody has benefited. If I go back even further, way further, the fear of change is why we don't have a Midland Avenue bypass, which I don't think there's anybody in town. Granted, you can't do it now with the housing that's there. I don't think there's anybody in town that said, oh my gosh, we missed it. And Grand Avenue would be a whole different scenario and maybe wouldn't have this conversation. So I think we need to be forward looking. We have minimized, I believe, the known impact to those that spoke to us and adopted. And that's why I'm pushing, and I can think of tweaks I would make, but we have gone through this process for so long. I'm not willing to open up the can at this point. Council decided last time that was council's decision. Doesn't matter whether it's 5-2, 4-3, 6-1. Council decided, and I would hope that council would decide the same tonight and then deal with it going forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Coe.
Okay, and I appreciate all the comments. I think there are good arguments both sides, but I'm gonna have to stay what my position has been on this. Again, I appreciate the intent. I understand what we're trying to do, but I also have to respect the input from the DDA and the chamber and some of the existing businesses. I really feel like the current boundary is too large. It was expanded well over where we started this conversation. It includes the government and the courts areas as well as our professional business areas. I see these functions, as was just talked about, very important to our downtown, and I want to respect those businesses. And I think having that piece on there where, yes, you're grandfathered in and you can remain as is one way to allow that. But when they're not allowed to expand or change, some of those businesses have large enough properties and lots that they could expand if they wanted to. And I just feel like the boundary is too large. We're trying to force retail into areas where I don't know that we have that much need for that much retail. So I can't change my position right now. I'm gonna stay where I was at with the last votes, and I can't support this as it is.
There are a few other mics lit up, but I always hate when the mayor goes last, like this is the final word. So I'm going to jump in and then I'll let the last few jump in. So big picture, I won't be changing my vote either. Humor me why I could tell you all a story. I got on council after I had helped a friend amend a PUD to allow chickens in the neighborhood. So the code had changed, but because of this cumbersome PUD overlay, chickens weren't allowed in our neighborhood. And it was a great example that land use evolves. Land use changes with current times. It's why we're talking about the upzoning and we evolve as a community for what works within an area. And when we have a false variable imposed upon us,
it's cumbersome. So just like we overturned the chickens and she was able to successfully have chickens in her neighborhood, I can also see the opposite of that, in that when we put a moratorium on short-term rentals, we had a false variable with a bunch of applications, so that people who thought maybe they some point were going to have a short-term rental in their house, they went out and applied for one. My concern here is that false variables and not acknowledging the evolution of land use will cause stifling in our downtown core, meaning that these folks are not going to say, maybe this year we've lost a couple associates, so let's go ahead and rent out this one space to X. But then when we grow as a company, we'll grow back into that. Instead, they're going to stagnate and say, whoa, we don't want to lose our designation and, get grandfathered in that we can't move into this. The evolution of land use is very organic, and we can't step in and think that we have this vision for, 5, 10, 20 years ahead of time. If anything demonstrated that, is COVID. There are going to be events in life that make it so we cannot anticipate how or when people are going to use a space. We don't know. I mean, who knew in 2005 that by 2011, we were going to have a rush on commercial spaces for weed, for marijuana industry? There is an evolution for how people use land, and this does not honor it to me. This pulls it back and says, right now, in this moment, this is what we think is right. Now, to your point, you're all thinking, but they can apply for variances and we can change it. But in order to do that, you have to have conflict. And I think as a community and as a council, you shouldn't have to have conflict in order to see that maybe something isn't working well. Instead, and look at who's not complaining, but concerned about this. It's not the people in the places in this town that are so historically and organically sales tax generating locations. We haven't had a single person who's been, 8th and Grand right downtown to say, I'm concerned about this, because historically and organically, those spaces have evolved to be very successful for what we originally planned for this. That's why when we have a DDA and we have a chamber who do understand the nuances and successes of a commercial area, they made a recommendation to us. And this ordinance this evening is saying, we know better. And sometimes I'm the one sitting up here saying, I know better. So it's not faulting you all. I'm just saying, in this moment, think about the fact that we have professionals and expertise that are saying this area in the downtown, the smaller overlay zone, seems really good right now. And if it's successful, then we expand it as the community grows into those areas, and it'll feel really fluid, because I can tell you that the businesses that were most recently displaced this would not have changed it. This overlay would not have done anything. The displaced businesses are being displaced for one of the approved uses. And so this would not have changed anything. So I just want us to stay, we can pull back and we can go with the recommendation. I am not a black or white. I'm not saying pull the overlay completely. I'm saying let's use some common sense and let's be reasonable about how we apply this. I also, I don't think that we should always use sticks. I think carrots are lovely. I think that if I could live in a world where there was incentives, and I think that there's a balance, but I think there's a way to do this. And if this is the direction you all choose to go, I will absolutely honor it. I will encourage it. But I truly do think that we had some recommendations. We can honor those recommendations and we can do good for this with a success instead of needing it to be conflict in order to pull back. And that's really all that I had to say. And I even duplicated a few things at the end. So, Councilor Dame.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, appreciate everything. Mitchell, thank you. Thank you for your effort. I heard you. First things first, I'm the one that made that comment. I sincerely apologize. I did not mean to offend you. But I own that comment and I stand by it. And yes, I would much rather have retail on the first floor on those blocks than professional services. I appreciate everything you guys do. There is second floors, third floor, fourth floors even that can be used for that kind of thing. To piggyback on Councillor Zelinski's comment that we heard you and we built in what we can to accommodate existing businesses. We did. And Madam Mayor, to correct you, it's not a variance, it's a special use. It's a little different process.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the clear.
And I made it very clear in the beginning that we need to go with a larger area. And I also want to correct when the P&Z pushed this forward, the area was about 5 times the size of what it is now. We actually went, I was on the P&Z at that time, we actually went for the entire downtown. Hannah, help me, the downtown zone, the green, whatever it's called, which extends, all over the place, way further than what we have now.
Downtown core.
Downtown core, that's it. If I had my way, we would extend this boundary even further than what we have now. Especially, so back to why I went with the larger zone and back to the special use permit. I made it very clear in the beginning that there needs to be flexibility for every existing business and property owner to be able to do what they have been doing, to be able to change if they want to change, and to be able to expand if they want to expand. Yes, we saw a slide that said yes and no. The special use process is a fantastic vehicle to allow certain things to happen. Yes, you have to go through an extra step. That's just how it is. But there's a criteria you got to meet. You go in front of P&Z, they are the recommending body. You do the special use permit, it lets you get out of some of these regulations that we're proposing tonight. Not get out, but be flexible with what you can and cannot do. To the sales tax that we heard, I don't care how small the sales tax amount is that comes from downtown. Allegedly, they think it's small. I'll take every percent I can get at this point. When I hear that we need to make sure our general fund is funded over the next few years, I'll do whatever I can to increase and expand sales tax areas. Retail, food and beverage, lodging, all that takes care of that. When you guys say, once we impose this, some things will go away. They will move down valley. Professional services will buy land, build, whatever. Let me do the reverse. If we don't protect our downtown core with the very small boundary that we currently propose, the parking lots that are on Colorado, the parking lot that is on Cooper is prime real estate for development. It is prime real estate for a residential development. So when you guys say, we're kicking out existing businesses, if we don't protect those areas, what can happen is we can have $8 million condos standing there and we will never see another commercial building in its spot. That's the loss I'm not willing. That's the risk of the loss I'm not willing to take. So to me, protecting that area with the boundary we have, with the regulations we have, with the flexibility that we built in. We've been talking about this for 3 years, including the P&Z 5 almost. The flexibility that's built in, the boundary we have. This is not a trial. This is not a, hey, let's give it the world. This is a reaction of an occurrence that happened when a certain bank came in onto Grand Avenue and wiped out 6 shops. We all had I don't know, naively the idea that they would put back some of those storefronts. Well, they didn't. They put up a parking lot because we did not have regulations like this. When you say businesses have been displaced because of an approved use, yes, you're absolutely correct. If this was in place and somebody would have developed another spot somewhere where you could purchase sections of commercial space, maybe these businesses will have a place to go. We don't have that currently. This is what I think will happen when we approve this. We will see downtown flourish. We will see sales tax increase. And more than anything, to Commissioner Schachter's point, we will protect that small area of blocks from overpriced residential development that has happened in other towns. Seems to be a trend because people want to live in expensive condos downtown. That's what I don't want. I want a mixed, yes, I do. Second, third, fourth floor, professional, absolutely, no problem. Ground floor, retail sales tax generating. And that's why I want to approve this tonight. So thank you.
Counselor Gotis.
Yeah, I think, Mitchell, I appreciate your comments. I'm glad you completely let your freak flag fly tonight. I liked all of your comments. I liked the velocity. It helped me understand more than your just your written statements. Yeah. So thank you for that. I don't think this is a wild experiment. Many other municipalities across the states, across the county, or across the country, Fraser's doing it right now. They just had a meeting 2 weeks ago doing the very similar thing to what we're doing. So this isn't we're not redesigning the wheel, not designing the wheel, and we are starting small. To Marcus' point, there's some of us, P&Z recommended a massive, larger map. So should we ignore them or should we ignore DDA? There's a conflict there, right? There's some of us, Marco and I are two of them, that would like a much larger district. There are some that, we had a public outreach meeting with downtown business owners. I think 25 people attended. The number one selected overlay was the largest one. The number two was the one that's larger than this. The last one that had the least amount of support was the smallest overlay. So to say that that we should start small and grow large, I think we are relatively. And I think that's just a difference of opinions and a difference of, scale and context. I don't think there's any evidence. I think we're taking it as I want to push back. There's no proof anywhere that's done this kind of overlay or zoning change that it's devalued the property. In fact, that from what I've heard in the articles I've read, that this has increased over time, maybe not the next day, but is increased the values of those properties. So, unless we have Zillow properties or assessor property values of other communities that have done that to demonstrate that can show that to me, I don't think I should accept it's just going to devalue the property. To Marcus' point, special use only cuts one way, or special use or variance, special use, thank you. We can always work in partnership with a property owner to get a better project, but it can't go the other way. So when A&B Bank does come in, when something else comes in and we're shocked, again, like we've been repeatedly about, golly, that's really happening again. We don't have the ability at all to claw that back, to meet and to try to figure out with that owner, what is the best and highest use and how can we meet in the middle? We can do that through the other process, which is why I want to err on that. And I love carrots, but carrots are and incentives are taxed on other people because that money has to come from somewhere else. Every time we give a special incentive to somebody, that means somebody else has to backfill, or that's just something else that is coming up Hannah's budget. They have to backfill from some other department of the city. I don't think this reduces the professional offices or square footage. I think, second and third floor, my office for 7 years, the Early Childhood Network is on the second floor of the Valley Professional Building. behind Alpine Bank. I loved it. There was ample off-street parking. Everybody knew where we were. My insurance agent, Martin Insurance in Carbondale, is on the second floor. Below it is retail and restaurant. My doctor is CBET above US Bank. I mean, I go to the second floor for a lot of things, and it doesn't bother me, and it doesn't seem to bother them. And, you know, I think Mike said, you know, something that was, this is not to a point or anything, but 75% of our buildings are owned by out of state owners. That's actually pretty concerning to me. And I don't know that that this will impact that or not, but if there is something, if people are going to make investments in our downtown and they understand that we want to honor the vibrancy, the retail, restaurant, historical nature of our downtown, then because people from Texas, California, whatever, Denver, who are buying buildings as investments in Glenwood, they don't care about that. They just want the highest return on their value. So if that creates a barrier to them because a local person is able to purchase a building or contemplate it because they want to work in conjunction with us, I think that's a good thing to me. And lastly, Sumner, my request still stands as a friendly amendment because it will inform my vote ultimately to amend the 75-25 and apply it evenly and uniformly as spelled out in section 2AI. What say you?
I would say after this lengthy debate. Mike. Oh, sorry. My name's Sumner.
Good.
I would say after these lengthy comments, Counselor Godus, and respect, there are other tweaks that I think a lot of us would wish to make down the road. So I would prefer to call the question unamended at this point.
Okay, I am going to have Counselor Weimer just add ideally just a brief reply, a retort to some of these, and then, okay, and then I am gonna call the question, okay? Counselor Weimer.
So my 6 other points on this topic. So just as quick responses, my fellow esteemed counselors, council people. This isn't about a fear of change. It's not part of my mental process at all. So that's not that's sort of a misread. One example that I failed to mention in my earlier piece was this concept of, well, you can just move up, right? Move up a floor and now do an approved use on the ground. Well, if I'm a landlord, I've been in, I'm an office space landlord. I'll move my people up, and now you're telling me I have to put a restaurant or a retail thing or something that I've never done before on the first floor. That's out of my wheelhouse. I'm not going to do it. It might be just easier, honestly, to just leave it vacant. And we've not recognized that. We've not done anything about that. We're telling people approved use. Are we forcing them to build something like that on their first floor? That's not ever been addressed. The A and B thing, would this have prevented that? They still could have demolished those six things. Put A and B on the second floor, put a tchotchke's shop on the first floor, and a parking lot, right? So I don't know that we're preventing that. Expensive condos downtown, I don't know, this doesn't prevent that. You could do retail on the first floor, or a little tchotchke shop, and expensive condos up above, right? So saying that this is in response to A and B, or that we're preventing expensive condos, again, I think those are misreads. And we need to be very crystal clear as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then finally, it's been mentioned a couple of times, well, we've been at this for 3 years. I don't care if we've been at this for 30 years, right? That should never be anyone's mindset. My God, we've been at this for so long. Let's do it, and we'll come back to it on the flip side and we'll get it right. By God, no, right? If it takes 3 years, if it takes 5 years to get this right, anything right, we should never force something out into the world just because we're tired of dealing with it. That's, and there's no reason that this thing has to be pushed through tonight versus a month or 2 months from now. Thank you.
Thank you. It appears, before we call the questions, that Counselor Schachter was willing to amend.
I will,
Okay.
I will accept the amendment as presented and the first reading.
Okay, so would you do me a favor and will you just vocalize exactly what we're looking at and what you're looking for here as far as the amendment, just so that we're crystal clear for both
What
the
I-
public. Hold on one second. I've got it. Okay, go ahead.
What I heard is the motions to approve the first reading
Mhm.
with the exception that we will remove. I might need help from Mr. Godas, the
Yeah.
attorney. We will remove the hotel provisions and make them an allowed use under the same requirements as any other allowed uses.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Great.
I think, if Jonathan could, I'm sorry, Council, give the subsection.
Yeah.
That's being modified.
It's section C, site development improvement standards. Number 2, subsection A, subsection I exemption, subsection 1 exemption, subsection I, where it says lodging is allowed up to 50% of the building's linear street frontage. I would, the amendment is to strike number 1 exemption and following that, the underlying lodging part, so that the lodging would be consistent with every other use that we have laid out in the overlay zone.
Okay.
Just
Thank
to clarify, because I heard 2 different things
Thank
and I pulled up the section.
Yep, that's it.
Counselor Godas is speaking about. This would remove lodging being able to take up 50%. And that would mean that lodging would remain a non-approved use and be relegated by that. Is that what you are meaning?
No.
No, that 75%.
Would also need to add a change in your amendment that adds lodging as an approved use because
Yes.
it's
Thank you.
currently not.
Okay, so you actually need to do that, if you would be so kind. You're making the request,
Yeah.
but you made the motion. So if you can amend your motion to include that.
I will amend my motion to change item 2A1. I can't read the other letter.
Aye.
I as stated, and to add lodging as an approved use in the downtown overlay district.
And Hannah, is that clear? Any
Yes.
questions?
Thank
Okay, great. So I'll look for an amended second.
I amend my second.
Okay, great. And I will call the question.
Counselor Zelinski, yes. Mayor Wusso, no. Counselor Godas, yes. Mayor Pro Tem Dem, yes. Counselor Weimer, no. Counselor Kaup, no. Counselor Schachter, yes. It passes 4-3.
A huge thanks to community development. That was 3 years of hard work. I look forward to seeing the outcome of this, and I hope it is as successful as the majority of council wanted it to be. So I thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, awesome. We're gonna bring this back to actually, yeah, let's do a 5-minute break. And then when we come back, we're doing item 10A, which should have probably been 10B, but
I'm sorry.
that's
I
okay.
can't- Like there's 10, 10A.
Yeah, totally. We're good. We'll do a 5-minute break.
No, it literally would be.
you. Okay, we are going to transition to our added on item. And we'll have our legal counsel, Carl Hanlon, jump in.
Thank you. Good evening. So earlier this week, or actually yesterday, rather than simply calling me up and saying, hey, would you waive and accept service? We had process servers hunt down at their homes the city clerk and the mayor to serve them with Hershey v. City of Glenwood Springs. I'm not going to comment on that. Beyond that, in light of that, I would like, even though the charter does give me the authority to respond to lawsuits independently as your attorney, just for clarity's sake, I would like your authorization to respond to that suit as necessary. And if somebody would make that motion, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Counselor Coe.
I will move that we give the city attorney the authority to respond to the Hershey versus city or lawsuit
And I'll-
as necessary.
I'll second.
Okay, great. And I will, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. We feel confident in your skills, and we hope that you maintain the integrity that we have always expected of you and that we expect of this council. And I thank you for all the work ahead.
Thank you. And no pressure.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, great. Let's move on then to your administrative report. There wasn't anything else, Carl? Okay, great. Thank you. Perfect.
I don't really have anything. I just wanted to say thanks again to Hannah and her team. They've been working hard on this stuff, and I'm always proud to put them up on the podium. So thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, that was hard work. Hard work. Okay, did we have any incoming or outgoing correspondence?
We didn't. I do have one other thing.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize that we were in flip to order. I've always been second. I'm confused.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize. The other thing is that I've got a couple of citizens complaints and queries about some of the handouts that are going around about the petition that's being circulated, and we are taking a look at that. I did not have an opportunity today. I was in with council most of the day and in meetings with Steve. We're going to take a look at that. Just keeping in mind that underneath the Fair Campaigns Practices Act and our local ordinances, there are requirements on that. There's nothing there's not like I don't have cease and desist authority or something like that. There could be potentially some fines if things are being misreported or if it's an issue committee that isn't reporting properly. The goal here is transparency for voters. So we are investigating that right now, but just wanted to alert council to that fact because I know that it's become a question that we've heard quite a bit.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we will go ahead and close that and bring it back to council for council comments. We can go down the row or I can kind of popcorn it out and see who wants to speak first. Counselor Coe.
Last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and I guess just Wednesday, Thursday, Jonathan Godis and myself attended the Mountain Towns 2030 Sustainable Solutions Conference in Vail with many, about almost 500 participants, I believe, from a lot of the resort towns, all the way from Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, and one from as far away as Japan. It was a very inspiring conference just to see all the solutions that people are working on everywhere from towns and counties to workers that are just working for the ski areas and doing best to cut their fossil fuel pollution and cut their waste and things like that. So a lot of inspiring ideas, a lot of good workshops and presentations. So I will be bringing some of those ideas back to our climate action plan update conversations and hopefully more conversations on some of that to come. So thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity to go and attend the conference for the city.
Councilor Schechter.
Thank you. I've threatened, I'm not going to do it tonight because I'm exhausted after what we did. I've threatened to bring up some short-term rental and code changes that'll come. I do have a question though. since I've never been through the budget process, and it's come up, where does introduction and consideration of a public safety fee? It's not really in the budget yet. Is that a legislative code thing to come up? And coming up with what it should be? Because we don't have one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If we were going, we'd pick that up, probably Q1 next year.
Okay.
And start having that discussion. And then if it's something you guys decide to do or, implement, we'll just deal with it in the normal legislative process.
Oh, good. I think it's worthy of consideration for sure. And then lastly, I just commend the other night, thanks to Diane Reynolds, there was a meeting, an introduction to Jamie Carey, and Bill Kiminoff came, and also Ryan Gordon, and it was a small audience, as too often they are, but they did a great job of talking about what we're doing, intervening, listening to people, and the beauty of it, it wasn't just, oh, I'm issuing a bunch of tickets, which he is, but how he's doing it. And then Ryan brought up the different layers that we're considering about traffic mitigation, management, and calming. So it was an excellent meeting, Chief. Thank you.
Counselor Weimer.
Interesting.
Oh, sorry. I forgot Brianna.
Oh.
She pulled it off. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good job. Good
It's
job.
just, it's like a unilateral, like, and Brianna. And she was there and she helped us and she led, yeah, so thank you. Mhm.
Probably
Mhm.
led the thing. I think oddly, I saw 2 emails this week from citizens asking for what is that? Crosswalks? Jesus.
Totally.
The cold medicine's starting to sit in. Crosswalks, what's the best way to respond to that, or to whom should those get forwarded? Just to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say forward those to me, and then
Okay.
I'll try to keep everybody in the loop as necessary, and we'll follow up with people.
Got it.
And also what ends up happening often is that I will forward it. And then I'll CC whoever needs to be on it. So it never is a problem with me if you want to just shoot me a text and say, did you already do this? Or do you want me to do it? Because I'm happy. Usually I'm trying to stay, yeah. Yeah, or CC me on it. CC, CC Steve and maybe even the department head if you think you kind of know what direction it's gonna go, and then just add me on it so that I don't. That's helpful. So
Do you CC the original sender?
I reply to the original sender in my reply a lot of times, and then I just, hey, on this reply, I'm CCing Public Works Director and our city manager. So, okay, great. Counselor Godus.
So Hannah tells me that there might be a little confusion about my motion, oddly enough. And so, yeah,
Really?
I know you're dying here. So the intent, and I believe the intent of the amendment and the first and second, or so let me try to restate this, is that 75%, because I think we need to clear it up so there's not confusion, but I
So
want,
really quickly, let's make sure that
Yeah.
those out in the public, that we have popped back to item number 10, ordinance
Yes.
23-09 downtown design overlay, because there was some clarifying need on the motion.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank
okay,
you.
go ahead.
Thank you very much. So the intent was that and the motion was to make it consistent with every other use, the 75% retail, 25%.
Mhm.
So I just want to clarify that was everybody's understanding with what my motion was.
Mhm.
Okay, and Hannah, is that clear?
I got it.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you. She just needed
Thank
that cleared up because she was concerned that maybe we flipped it the other way.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Counselor Godus, do you have any other announcements?
No, I just really appreciate the robust conversation tonight. It was done vigorously and respectfully. And so thank you for everybody that we get to serve with. And also we had a great, just for the public, we had a 4-hour with strategic planning.
Yeah.
Priority
That's what we
planning.
called it.
And man, I can't remember the woman who, I can't remember her name. Minch was her last name.
Laura
Laura.
Minch, she's a professor with CMC.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I was called Professor Minch. It
Yeah.
does take a team.
Does.
And she did a great job. And I think the best part of the job that she did was that she allowed us to explore where we were, what our priorities were, and we had a great conversation with each other that I think really advanced a lot of these conversations, got clarity on other things. So I really appreciate taking the 4 hours to be with you guys, because it was 4 hours well spent for me anyway.
Yeah, thank you. And I will add to that is that the city councilors that I sit with, all of you give so much time to these positions. I mean, Shelley mentioned that last week you guys were at a conference. I spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at a water conference in Junction, but everyone, you were there at a meeting the other night. We're at these boards and commissions. And I thank you all for the knowledge that you're always gaining about the subjects that are pertinent. You guys, once again, even within the conversations, the clarifier, and Ingrid, you're talking special use permit, you're not talking, this is how we hone our skill, and we do it because this is a service position and I know how much you all care. So thank you so much. My comment though was actually about the Water Smart Conference. So big picture, I'm going to do a little shout out. I attended the Sonoran Institute Growing Water Smart Conference. It's gone on for 10 years. And this was the first year that Glenwood was able to attend. My shout outs are to April Long, who is a consultant, but also our RWAPA. Matt Langhorst, Public Works Director, Warren Hayes, who is the water treatment facility manager, Rodney Tarullo, Parks and Rec Director, and Scott Schreiber, who is the chairman on our River Commission. Jim Hardcastle rounded out our team. And when I say team, in every nuance, which is, I'm using that word too much lately, but that's cool. You guys can all correct me on that. But it is a really strong team. It felt really driven, focused, and I walked away realizing how much these employees and volunteers and consultants know about our water supply, but care about the resiliency within our community. And also a shout out to our forefathers, which were mostly forefathers, and their wisdom in acquiring, maintaining, and ensuring how good water rights are within the city. Because a lot of in the West, water isn't always so guaranteed. And this conference really illustrated to me how much forethought went into this and how well executed it's been. Shout out to Carl as well for maintaining it and having foresight for our water resiliency. So thank you. And those guys, that whole name list, 3 days down in Junction, Monday morning, all the way to Wednesday evening, away from their families, away from other commitments. I can only imagine their inbox were really full because we did not really take breaks other than to grab a drink. So thank you to all of those people. Thank you. Yeah. Councilor Dem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Speaking of watering, I think we're going to reconvene at our favoring watering hole tonight, which is Doc's Holidays.
Okay, excellent. A motion to adjourn.
So move.
And a second, actually, mic's on, please.
So move.
Well, just for the people who want to make the motion to adjourn.
Sorry. Yep,
Okay.
so move.
Yep, and a second.
So seconded.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is adjourned. Thanks all. What's it? Well,